In today's episode, we're going to try something a little different. First, you'll watch a short animated story in easy English. Then, after the story, we'll talk about repetition, why it matters, and how you can use this story to improve your English. Now, let's begin. A crow was flying over the forest, searching for food. Suddenly, he noticed something on the ground. It was a piece of cheese. The crow quickly flew down and picked it up in his beak. He felt very happy. What a lucky day, he thought. This cheese looks delicious. He didn't want to eat it on the ground because he was afraid other animals might take it. So, he flew up into a tall tree and sat on a strong branch. The crow looked at the cheese in his beak and felt proud. I am very smart, he thought. I found this food all by myself. Not far from the tree, a fox was walking slowly. He was very hungry. He hadn't eaten since the day before. As he walked, he looked around carefully, searching for something to eat. Suddenly, he saw the crow on the branch. Then he noticed the cheese in the crow's beak. Ah, he thought, that cheese looks perfect. I really want it. But the fox knew he couldn't climb the tree or jump high enough. So, he began to think. I must be clever, he said to himself. I will use my mind. After a moment, he smiled. He had an idea. The fox walked slowly to the bottom of the tree. He looked up and said in a soft voice, Good morning, dear crow. What a beautiful bird you are. Your feathers are so black and shiny. You look amazing. I've seen many birds, but none are as beautiful as you. You are truly special. The crow felt proud. Yes, maybe I really am very beautiful, he thought. He looked down at the fox but said nothing. The cheese was still in his beak. The fox continued, I'm sure your voice is just as beautiful. People say you have a wonderful voice. Is it true? Please, sing a song for me. I would love to hear you. Now the crow felt excited. He wanted to show how good he was. He forgot about the cheese. He lifted his head and opened his beak to sing. Oh no, my cheese. Thank you, dear crow, said the fox, catching the cheese. That was a very nice song. The crow felt embarrassed. He had lost his food because of his pride. The fox looked up and said, Let me give you some advice, do not trust people who only praise you. Sometimes, they have a plan. The crow listened carefully. The fox added, Kind words are not always honest words. Then he turned and walked away. The crow stayed on the branch, feeling sad, but now he understood his mistake. I was foolish, he thought. I believed him too easily. From that day on, the crow became more careful. Whenever someone spoke with too much praise, he stopped and asked himself, Is this real, or is this a trick? Alright, now that we've watched the story, let's pause for a moment. You might be thinking, okay, I understood the story, so I can move on. But not so fast. In language learning, understanding something once is good, but it's not enough. The real learning begins when you return to the same story again. When you listen a second time, you notice more words. When you listen a third time, the sentences become clearer. And when you repeat useful phrases from the story, they slowly become part of your English. So today, we're going to use this story to talk about one of the most powerful tools in language learning, repetition. Repetition doesn't mean boring study. Some learners hear this word and think, oh no, not again. They imagine doing the same exercise over and over. They imagine reading the same sentence again and again. They imagine language learning as something dry, slow, and tiring. But repetition is not the enemy. In fact, it is one of the most important parts of learning a language well. If you want to remember words, repetition matters. If you want to understand English more easily, repetition matters. If you want to speak more naturally and with more confidence, repetition matters. So today, we're going to explore this idea together in a simple way. We'll look at repetition through three main questions. First, what do we want to repeat? Second, when should we repeat it? And third, how do we repeat it? Now, let's move to our first big question. What do we want to repeat? This is important, because not everything is equally useful. Some learners repeat random vocabulary. Some memorize long lists of rare words. Others spend time on language they will almost never use. That's not the best approach. In language learning, we want to repeat the things that give us the most value. First, we focus on high-frequency words, words that appear again and again in everyday English. Words like still, enough, almost, maybe, around, instead, probably, while, although, and yet. These words may seem small, but they appear everywhere. When learners truly understand them, their English becomes much stronger. Second, we want to repeat useful phrases and chunks. This is extremely important, my friends. Real language is not just one word at a time. People usually speak in groups of words, in chunks. You see, these chunks help learners speak more naturally, without thinking too much. They also help learners understand faster, because they stop listening word by word and start listening in groups. So, when we think about repetition, we shouldn't focus only on single words. We should also focus on complete expressions. Third, we want to repeat grammar patterns in context. This means we don't just study grammar rules from a book. We also repeat sentences that show how grammar works in real life. Learners often repeat vocabulary with their eyes, but not with their ears and mouths. They may read a phrase many times, but never say it out loud. That's why repetition should also include sound. Hearing the same sentence several times helps learners notice pronunciation. Saying the same sentence several times helps learners feel the rhythm of English. Finally, we want to repeat input that we can understand. Okay? This could be a short dialogue, a story, a part of a podcast, or a simple conversation. If learners understand most of it, they can repeat it and gain more each time. The first time, they understand the main idea. The second time, they notice key words. The third time, they hear pronunciation more clearly. The fourth time, they feel more comfortable and confident. This is why repeating easy, understandable material can be more powerful than always jumping to something difficult. So, if we want repetition to really work, we should repeat language that is useful, common, and meaningful, not random language, not rare language, and not language that is too difficult to understand. We want repetition to support real communication. Now, in this part, we're going to look at the next two important questions. When should we repeat language, and how should we repeat it? These two questions matter a lot, because repetition is not only about doing something again. It's also about doing it at the right time, and in the right way. Let's start with the question of when. Many learners repeat something only once, very close to the first time they learn it. For example, they learn 10 new words, repeat them 5 times in 10 minutes, and then never look at them again. This may feel good in the moment. It may feel like learning. It may feel like progress. But a few days later, many of those words are gone. Why? Because the brain needs time, and it needs return. It needs a second meeting, a third meeting, and often many more meetings. One short study session is usually not enough. So, when should we repeat language? First, we should repeat it soon after the first time. This is very helpful. If you learn a new phrase today, it's a good idea to meet it again later the same day, or at least very soon. That second meeting helps protect the memory. It tells the brain, this was not just a small moment. This is something important. Second, we should repeat it after a short gap, after a little time has passed. This could be the next day, 2 days later, or after a few days. This stage is powerful because now the brain has to work a bit harder. It needs to try to remember, and that effort is very useful. Then comes the third stage. We repeat the language again over a longer period of time. This could be 1 week later, 2 weeks later, or even a month later. Language grows through return. A word or phrase becomes strong when it comes back again and again over time. This is why good language learning is not just about one lesson. It's about meeting useful language many times, across days, weeks, and months. Now, how do we want to repeat language? This is very important, because repetition should not be dead, empty, or mechanical. Good repetition is active. Good repetition has meaning. Good repetition helps us use language, not just look at it. One very effective way to repeat language is through listening again to the same story or the same audio. This can be very powerful. The first time, you may only understand the main idea. The second time, you notice some words. The third time, the phrases become clearer. The fourth time, you begin to feel the rhythm and pronunciation. This is why learners should not always listen once and move on. Sometimes, staying with one short piece of audio is much more effective. So, let's bring everything together. Repetition matters, because one meeting with language is usually not enough. We need to see it, hear it, and use it many times before it truly becomes part of us. We should repeat the right things. We should repeat them at the right times. And we should repeat them in smart, meaningful ways. Repeat soon after the first meeting. Repeat again after a short gap. Repeat again over time. Thank you for listening to English.